It's the thing that's often not translated in his work, because the work is the work and the films are the films. But there is a lot of laughter on David's sets. They are incredibly joyous sets to be on. We all laughed an enormous amount. We continue to laugh on the release of the film. We continued to laugh when we would get together. David was one of the brightest, funniest, shiniest men, and that's just to say a few things about him. So know that when you see this film, that it was made with such love by David, by all of us, of course, but David was the real tip of the spear. This was just a thought that occurred to me today. It has no place in any storytelling. But years ago, right around when cell phones were kind of becoming a thing, David would talk about going to see a movie, and he'd say, there's nothing better than sitting in a movie theater. I hope you guys close the screen again and then reopen it. And then the curtains open and the silver screen, and then light starts to play across the screen. And he would just really fetishize what the experience you're about to have, which is the lights dim, the screen opens. As it relates to cell phones, he was very early on in the internet with wanting to put little short films on the internet. And he was making, it was when they were highly degraded little sort of matchbook-sized films that you would put on. They were not hi-fis, pre-YouTube, pre-iPhone, pre-everything. And he'd say, Justin, one day you're gonna be able to take your cell phone and you're gonna be able to squirt it at a wall. And you're gonna be able to watch a movie from your cellular phone. And I just thought that was funny. I laughed at it, and I also remember thinking, that's never gonna happen. Here we are. David has predicted the future. He's Nosferatu. Those are a couple of my memories of David. Naomi, maybe you want to share one?
Just delighted that everyone is here to celebrate his extraordinary life and contribution to cinema on his birthday. And so we can have a version of collective grieving and honoring such a special man who literally created everything wonderful in my life. It kind of all goes back to him bringing joy into me as a creative person, and then that bled into so many other great parts in my life. And so I'm eternally grateful to this man, so much so that just before we got here, we're talking about how we had to be rabbits in some of his movies, and which was quite hard to do. But yes, just so grateful, and he would just love to know. I know that we came out on one of the coldest nights of the year. It's only the beginning of the year, but in a long time, and in the cinema. Please keep coming back to see David's films and everyone's films in the cinema. Yeah, and that's all.
I was going to say, I said on the way here, that I had such a sad couple days thinking about him and just the kind of profound effect he had on my life, just personally and professionally and emotionally. And when I actually start thinking about him and thinking about how he was and his just sort of essence and manner, I immediately stopped being sad, because I keep thinking about how fucking funny he was all the time, and incredibly full of love and joy and just curiosity. And even in the darkest moments of his movies, making those on set, I mean, and you know this better than anybody, even at the darkest sort of pit of despair in his movies, there's all his love for filmmaking, his absolute commitment and 100% engagement with cinema and making movies. He loved them so much. There was so much joy in the making of them. And that comes through even when you're watching the sort of most kind of nightmarish, disturbing images. I think you really feel his love and his just engagement with movies and with cinema and with images. And being on a set feels like that. too, and that's really, really fun for an actor to have this kind of bubble to live in and these margins to live in, and you can kind of feel him rooting and egging you on to go further, and that's a really wonderful thing, and I think Mulholland Drive especially to me really feels that way as an audience, and I just want one small little story I wanted to tell about Mulholland Drive. There's a scene you'll see kind of toward the beginning where Laura Herring's character comes into the house for the first time, and she walks down the hall and ends up in the shower to wash herself after this horrible car accident. And they shot the sort of Laura coming toward the camera and going into the bathroom, and then it was time to do the point of view, and a Union Steadicam guy showed up, and he's a big guy. He was like 6'8", and he's like a linebacker. These guys have to be big because they have to carry these rigs around there, like their backs, and they're big, strong guys. So we came in for the day to do this, and usually the protocol is like the cinematographer kind of tells them what to do. Okay, we're doing this, and here's the light, and so they do all that, and the guy does a take. Peter Deming, who shot the movie, tells him what to do, and the guy goes and does it. And he does a pretty perfunctory job. He goes down the hall and is doing her point of view, and David gets up out of his chair and goes, no, and comes up and gets right in the guy's face, like, you're really scared. You don't know what's in there. It could be like a dead body in there. So you walk he shows the guy, and the guy's like, I've never been directed by a director before. He's not an actor, and he keeps sort of looking at Peter, and Peter's laughing, and he's like, you go here, and you real slow right here, because around the corner, he does this whole thing, and the guy's just like, okay. And it is taken, David's behind him, like, steering him down the hall, and the guy is like a performer now, and an actor, and he had such a good time, and everybody on that set, including the dog. I had a scene with a dog, and David directed the dog. The dog had that experience. Like, it was just, seriously, I had to scene with a dog, and he's like from another room on a blowhorn. David's like, okay, Scott, hang up the phone, count to 3, pick it back up, dial. And he's like, and the dog's name was Jack, and he goes, and Jack? And everyone's dying of laughter. Like, you just sit there and you watch and the dog did. It was like, it was insane. Like that was the experience that everybody has, at least in my experience of working with him, was just this like amazing.
Hilarious.
It was absurd and weird and wonderful,
Lots of laughter.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wrap this up by reading something that David used to request that I read prior to screenings. This was a little poem that I believe that he wrote, that he would say, read it and then get off the stage. So this is from David. We are like the spider. We weave our life and move along it. We are the dreamer who dreams and then lives in the dream. I'm gonna get off the stage.